I am a gun snob, but so are you. Let's talk about that. Hey guys, welcome to the Gun Shop with me, Johnny. Today we're going to look at various types of gun snobbery, and we're going to lead all of those types through to me. We've released a few videos recently where I've been called out as a gun snob by plenty of people, and I am here to tell you today, as I've already said in the intro, that you'll probably want to. So let's talk about some various types of gun snobbery and see in which category you fall in. Gun snob number one is the classic snob, also referred to as the rich guy or the connoisseur, depending on which side of him you sit. This guy undoubtedly owns the best of the best. Probably spent double what he needed to spend and got something with really nice exclusivity to it, something better than he needed by quite a long way. This in itself is not an issue. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with owning nice things. However, the fact that this guy then looks down on anybody who isn't in his superior gun club, that's what makes him the classic snob. The classic snob is a very scalable model. For example, the guy who owns a Krieghoff, Blaser or Perazzi will snob upon those who own Beretta, Browning, Maruku, Guerini. The guys who own Beretta, Browning, Guerini will snob upon those who own Lambers, Koffs, ATAs. Those who own ATAs will look down on Bakel owners, maybe? The classic snob is hated by everybody below him in the ownership chain because anything within his radar he will pull in and slag off. Might not be for big things, might be for little things. These things can go from a little jibe of, your wood's lacquered, to all the way through to, that's just crap. This classic snob needs zero explaining. We all know him. We all know him. That is your generic gun snob everyone will refer to when they talk about gun snobs. However, from my findings, there is so much more depth to gun snobbery, which leads us into number two, which I like to call the irony snob. Also known as the poor guy versus the rich guy, or the utilitarian gun guy, the poor guy is the antithesis of the rich guy. What I'm saying is that snobbery can work the other way. It's not just the rich guys snobbing on us, the rest of us, with our fairly average guns. Common signs of an irony snob are sayings such as these. It's basically an X. It's just as good as X. I don't know why you'd waste your money on X when this does the same job. The real peak saying is overpriced rubbish. Anybody referring to something as overpriced rubbish clearly has forgotten that all guns are created awesome, and so, you know, get off your low snobby horse and realize that maybe just because you can't afford something or can't justify spending something on something else, that doesn't make it bad. It just makes it expensive than what you have. You know someone's crossed the line for real when they say something is a waste of money. It may be to you, but just because you can't justify spending more, perhaps you don't need to snob on somebody who does. Of course, there can be some factual truth put into the argument of a not spending quite so much money on a gun. So somebody, and this will lead us into the third class of gun snob a little later, that actually you can take a gun and go, you know what, I don't need to spend any money because of this, this, and this. And as long as those are actual facts, not opinions preached as fact, preaching opinion as fact is the main sign of any gun snob. This gun is better because of this opinion, and yours is wrong. That means a gun snob, regardless of whether we're talking about my Krieghoff is better than your Bakel because it's got amazing barrels and they point in the same direction, or my Bakel's better than your Krieghoff because it cost me 100 quid and it works every time and I don't care when I have to beat fence posts in with it. Both of these are opinions, not facts. Any argument based in fact, I'm here to listen to. The irony snob and the classic snob do have something in common though, and that is they are both looking for justification of their purchase. However, they're looking for justification of their purchase at the expense of somebody who's bought something different. And that is just unacceptable in every single way, guys. So please, these snobs, there's just not much room for them. Bashing somebody else because they bought something different from you, that's just stupid. Anyway, snob number three. Snob number three is the brand snob. So let me start this by saying there is nothing wrong with loyalty, and brand loyalty is a brilliant thing. There's not enough loyalty in the gun trade world at all, generally speaking. However, blind loyalty to the point of, again, this all leads back to the justification argument, saying that someone else's gun is crap is stupid. Every single gun manufacturer or manufacturer of anything has made a dud model, a crap model, or there is a variant of their guns that is just well subpar. To look out for this guy, and I'm not saying that every loyal person to a brand is a gun snob, however, the phrase such as and this will come from a Beretta man more than likely. I tried a Browning once, it was crap. Poo-pooing an entire brand because you tried a gun, shot 10 shots with it, and it was probably a poor model anyway, and even if it wasn't, perhaps you're just not good enough to tell the difference. Who knows? After this phrase, they'll generally say something like, I'll stick with the brand I'm using because the other brand is less quality or is inferior because of this. It just reeks of ignorance. Get out there, try some different guns, okay? Buying a gun based on brand alone is just a silly thing. There are amazing models from every manufacturer. As much as it's nice to support the one that you love, and nobody's going to take that away from you. However, at the detriment to other brands, that's snobbery. You're a gun snob if you do that. Number 4 is the value snob. The value snob isn't too militant in their snobbery. However, there will be little jibes here and there from them. And as such, they are a snob nonetheless. The value snob is looking for the best value gun money can buy. He's not after cheap necessarily, but he's looking for the best bang for his buck. And that will be based on a matrix of his own needs. The snobbery in him will come out when somebody bought a gun, and value snobs can fight each other who bought a gun off of a slightly different matrix of needs. Somebody who needs a gun that is beautiful will clearly snob on somebody who thinks bought a gun because it needed to be hard. A hard gun and a beautiful gun, their matrix of needs is different. However, they both bought on value alone. Regardless of what matrix they use, they all gang up on people who buy stuff more emotively and will snob upon them accordingly. Essentially, value snobs can come in all shapes and sizes. Imagine it a little bit like the watch theory. A Rolex is good value because it holds good value. A Casio G-Shock is good value because it holds good value. One's 100 quid, one's 5 grand. However, they both tell the time. However, they can both snob on people who didn't buy their brand. You know, and as such, I should point out, there can be an amalgamation of snobbery. You can get a poor guy, brand snob, who is also a value snob. Value and cheap are not the same. We all know that. That's a completely different video. And so, there we go. Let's move on. Before I go into our final type of snob, let's just say snobbery is really rife in the gun world. However, it really goes everywhere. And all we can do to knock it on the head is just to get on and realize that all guns are quite cool. You know, there's always something to love in a particular gun, and not knocking a gun for no reason is always a good thing. However, if you have factual reason, present it in a valued argument, and, you know, perhaps people would listen as opposed to just saying it's crap. So to move on to our final gun snob of this video is this, the gun store gun snob. Yes, the gun trade is indeed rife with gun snobbery. And this is a very specific type of gun snob. And, well, let me present myself to you. As you can imagine, working around guns every day gives one a unique perspective on the market. Understanding the pitfalls, the peaks, getting a wider view from the trade on what guns are good, what guns the top shots are using, what guns get returned the most, what a gun should handle like. It gives you a real wide view of what guns are. And as such, you can build a large factual base on guns. We get a lot of knowledge about gun handling, gun fixing, what guns break, return rates, etc., etc. We are the unfortunate amalgamation of factual bias and emotive bias. And as such, we can be really snobby against the things that we don't like. Anything that doesn't fit into our matrix of needs, which is reliability, good handling, and, you know, reliability. Essentially, the gun store snob is a snob based on factual basis, twisted through circumstance. And that makes us really bad, because we're going to have a mild opinion or some facts about any gun. And where people ask us our opinions all day long, sometimes we can't just help for them to come out. Essentially what I'm saying is the gun trade are the super snobs and the composite snobs, and I'm guessing that goes across the world, whether it's us in the UK with a majority shotgun market, the Americans with a pistol market, or, you know, the continent with a rifle market. It doesn't matter what major market you're going for. You're going to build up, being in the gun trade and selling what we sell, a little bit of this. So don't hate us. We're victims of our own circumstance. And that's not just the gun trade, because that, going back to the watch analogy, is going to work. If you work in anything, you work in cars, you're going to like the best cars. You work in watches, you're going to like the best watches, because you get an appreciation for where the money goes in each of these things. Not to say that means we want expensive stuff. We want reliability, we want handling, and we want quality. That's all. And if you can hit those three, you'll never get snobbed on by the gun trade. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Take care. Goodbye. Chuck some of your gun snob experiences down below. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and don't hate me too much for this video. See you next time.